Experience. I'm your host, as per usual, Schmoopy Daddy. If this is the first time you're watching the stream, the VOD, or the video on YouTube, I'm a monthly Hearthstone Wild Legend player who typically hits Legend first of the month, and after that I goof off. And when I goof off, I play your decks. And sometimes I do Snarky card reviews. And in this case, I am going to do a Snarky card review of all of our mini set cards for Perils in Paradise with a wild focus. Okay, let's start with Eternal Layover. I saw a bunch of people basically saying that this card sucks. I don't think it sucks necessarily. It does a couple things that I like for DH. DHDK. I'm going to mess that up multiple times. Number one, it's only got one Unholy Rune, so we can run it in Rainbow if we want to. We do have access to things like Nerubian Eggs and whatnot in Wild, so like we do have a lot of like Undead Synergy-esque Death Rattle type sorta synergies built in to some of our older cards, and this makes a ton of corpses. So like giving your stuff reborn that you want to die anyway, and then bringing it back and just sort of creating layers of threats, I could see that being decent, especially when your opponent's stuff does not have death rattles, and destroying their stuff does not give them corpses. It makes it easier for trades later. I could see that being beneficial. A lot of people have been low on this card, though, and I think it is a stretch to make it playable, but I don't necessarily hate it or its utility. I think it may be a couple sets until we figure out what the hell we want to do with it. Soul Searching is pretty not good unless you're playing Reno Unholy DK, and I would never wish that on my enemies. Traveling, what is it? Traveling Security? Traveling Security seems like the bad. But I will say Traveling Security seems like a card that'd be pretty good in Arena. I've been playing a lot of Arena recently. One of the better cards in Shaman is a 5-mana 2/2 Taunt Reborn that makes a 4/4 that also has Taunt. This is less good than that, but I could see it just sort of being a bomb in Arena where like you drop it down, okay, sure, you remove it, but now you've got an 8-drop to deal with, and depending on the Arena pool, that could be good, that could be bad. All right. Warlock, Deadline, tradable, temporary, destroy a minion. I think it's a better rogue card than it is a Warlock card, but I don't hate it for Warlock. Basically, like, it's like 1 mana cycle for 1 or destroy a minion right now. 2 mana destroy a minion is pretty premium removal. That's very strong. Like blow up anything that you can target. No questions asked. This just can't stay in your hand. It seems like a Reno Lock card. Reno Lock's not very good right now. Seems like it could be a Rogue card. Rogue is not very good right now. Worth noting that it's not an enemy minion. It's any minion, which, again, kind of comes double-sided. Could be good, could be bad. Fine Print. I've seen a lot of people wax poetically about Fine Print. They're like, oh, great, more Questline Warlock discussion. I mean, I think Questline Warlock might sniff this, but you've already got Defile, which some lists don't run. You've already got Domino Effect, which some lists don't run. Some lists don't run either. Some lists run both. Some lists have the choice between, like, Hellfire, Spreading Madness, which would help reduce the cost of your Flesh Giants, Soul Rend. Like, we have a lot of options in Warlock that do something similar. I'd have to see the exact meta and breakpoints where this is significant. Worth noting that Brain Masseuse does have 4 HP, so maybe 4 is a good breakpoint for AoE like this, but I'm a little bit skeptical. Color me a little bit skeptical. I don't think it's necessarily worth. I don't think it sees a ton of play in Wild, even though there's a lot of discussion behind it. Employee of the Month, I think I almost have better prospects for Employee of the Month than I do Fine Print. Battlecry, give a minion lifesteal. I could see this being a Reno Lock card over a long period of time. Kind of cute into aggro if you do play like some sort of a 1-drop, or even play like Zephyrus to go get like Nourish or something like that, and Zeph, for whatever reason, sticks around. go give him lifesteal. Not no stipulations. You could stick this on a fatty, make a bunch of healing. You could play this in even Warlock if even Warlock comes back into favor at some point. Slap a Mountain Giant with a bunch of healing, or a Knoll or something. Like, this is kind of a cool card, and I think this has enough flexibility long term. It could see some play in Wild. Clumsy Steward. I've seen a lot of people already bellyaching about Clumsy Steward. This is going to hard punish certain decks that I would say are a little bit unhealthy for the format. Like, if you're a combo deck that all you care about is drawing and setting up your combo, this is a great card for that. What kind of decks want to run this? Probably a low curve, unless you don't give a shit about your own cards. Unless it's a scenario where you're just like, you know what? What if I'm a Reno deck into a combo deck, and I could care less about my really expensive cards because I need to beat this combo deck right now. And if I make them discard their important thing, I win. So maybe I just play this. I saw Martian say that people will play this about as often as Razor Scale. I start getting more and more bullish on this when I see this. But this card really loses a lot of effect the lower your curve goes, both for your deck and your opponent's deck. So I'm not 100% sure how to evaluate it. I think it's one of those cards that I'm going to lose a game to. But overall, when you look at it statistically, it's going to suck. Bad. I think this might be better than Carnivorous Cube, because a lot of times Carnivorous Cube never actually breaks or is too slow to do something. This can at least eat something and then poop out a copy. Now, I'm assuming it does that once because we already have whatever ooze, copying ooze that like poops out a copy at the end of the turn, has a similar battle cry. This is not going to keep pooping out copies forever and ever. That seems fine. Zephyrus Dream Planner. Shockingly decent card. Looking at the pools and what's available, depending on your game plan and depending on what you want, you could get a nice block if you get super greedy. But the burn and the board clears seem fine. So, like, I think he's going to go into Reno piles. I think he'll see some play in Wild. The power is there. He'll be fine. Travel Master Dungar might be the most busted card in the set, especially in Druid. I know some people on Reddit were saying, like, 9 mana, you died on 4 anyway. Those people clearly don't play Druid or broken Druid decks. This can summon A&R, Aviana, and one more minion of your choice. Could be Mecha'thun. Draw through your deck. You don't need Celestial Alignment anymore, and just lol, and just go from there. Anacondra, maybe. Like, you have your options with Dungar. It wouldn't shock me if Dungar became a busted combo enabler. I don't think you ever use him just to vomit stats. While that's based, I just don't see it. This seems like a combo card. Just what deck can afford to run a 9-mana combo card? Druid. Until some other decks get some tricks. Maybe Paladin, because they can ramp up the 10 almost immediately and then do a funny. We're going to have to see. Vacation Planning. I think this card is really, really good. It does so much for 4 mana. You're restoring 4 health. You can pick your target for that. So if something is traded and is injured, you can restore it. Summon 3 Silverhand Recruits. Those little shitters will play interference against whatever aggro you're playing against, or provide pressure against a slower deck, and draw 2 cards. Reno Paladin struggles to draw cards. It has a lot of tutors. It kind of is doing like the Reno Hunter thing that Reno Hunter used to do, where it had a million tutors, but like no actual card draw. You just had things that drew things that drew things, and just sort of like puzzle pieced it through. I think this is a really good card. I think this is a card that is going to look kind of crappy when you first look at it, and then when you have a chance to kind of sit down and play with it, you're like, oh wow, yeah, this is decent. Like, I think 3 Silverhand recruits and draw 2 cards, you'd probably take that for 4 mana. The extra restoring 4 health is going to feel really good against aggro. I think it's a decent card. Busybot is weird and niche, and I don't even think it's a good arena card. I think this is like a weird, like... I think this is a good card in a bad standard deck or something. I don't know how to figure it out. Trustfall, I think it's too slow for constructed. I think it's going to be an absolute beating in arena because you're basically going to make like 2 low-cost, high-statted threats for 4 mana, which arena doesn't really punish you for doing that. So like this, I think, is going to be a good arena card and see no play anywhere else. Number Cruncher, I think, is uniquely bad. Let's compare Number Cruncher for a second to Sleep Under the Stars. Sleep Under the Stars, I think, is one of the more busted cards in the set, despite it being 7 mana. I had no idea how to evaluate it when it came out. I just saw sort of 7 mana and my eyes glossed over, and that was a mistake. Because it's 7 mana, but it can refresh up to 9 mana. You can gain up to 15 armor. You can draw up to 6 cards. But often you're doing a blend of those things. It's not unlikely that I draw 2, gain 5, refresh 3, or draw 2, refresh 6. Consider those options versus gain attack or health. Now, it's nice that it has Rush and Taunt. That's cute. But, like, am I splitting the difference here? Am I making this like a 4-5 Rush Taunt? I'm never making it an 8-1 Rush unless I want to kill something. Making it a 2-7 Taunt is fine, but it's a 4 mana 2-7 with Taunt and Rush. It's like, that was great like 3 years ago. This card I think is a little bit underwhelming. I wish there was a third option. Like I don't know. But like we're choosing thrice, but it's like you have to at least make one choice health. So it makes the card for me feel a little bit meh. Handle with Bears. Some idiot's gonna play this in Taunt Warrior. I think it's for 2 mana, get 2 taunts, and they're constantly scaling in your hand. It's too slow. But at the same time, some idiot's going to play it in Taunt Warrior. Ungoro Brochure. Okay, hear me out on this card. Both options are 4 mana. One option is draw 2 spells, reduce their cost by 1. One option, which is what you see, draw 2 minions, give them +2/+2. Reno Druid, I think, sniffs this. The option to get a cheaper Sleep Under the Stars or a cheaper like New Heights or cheaper Rising Waves or cheaper ramp in general is always intriguing, even if it's just filtering those cards out of your deck. Also, the give them +2/+2 is sort of not what I care about in this text. Drawing 2 minions in Reno Druid is very important. You're trying to put together Bran, Astalor, Aviana, or you're trying to, and enough mana to deploy those, or you're trying to put together Bran, etc. Aviana. And so this filtering 2 minions out of your deck, even though you don't get to choose what 2 minions there are, I could see that being very beneficial. This might see some play in Wild. Wouldn't shock me if it does. I don't know what to cut to make room with it in Reno Druid. I'd have to really sit down and think about it. But this could make the cut. Okay. Priest. I'll start with Silver Moon Brochure. This has the most hope out of anything. I had to re-look up Immune to see your opponent can't target or damage your stuff, but you can still target it with spells. So, like, giving a Radiant Elemental Immune and +2/+2 is fine. The other one is -2/-2 and Silence, I believe. It's really good half the time in the decks that are popular right now versus it's like 2 mana removal otherwise. I think you don't mind it as a Discover. I don't think it's very good on its own in Constructed without a little bit of structure behind it. I don't know how you get around the flips and being okay with the flips. The other 2 cards that I saw that were talked about heavily in Shadow Priest, Envoy of Prosperity and Job Shadower, I kind of put them in the same category as bad and too conditional. Imagine you've drawn Benny, and now you're taking your Envoy of Prosperity, you're playing it, and you're making Benny your next top deck. This just seems real bad. If it had a pirate tag, I'd consider it a little bit more seriously. But a deck like Aggro Shadow Priest needs card draw, which is why Cathedral, I think, continues to be so good in it. It thirsts for card draw to go and get the stuff that's going to go get lethal. This is probably a better setup card with something like Twilight Medium, or I don't know, or something along those lines, where you don't want it in your hand, you want to protect it in your deck and discount it or something. It's not an aggro card, and typically it's taking the most expensive thing in your hand, which is your worst draw, and making it also your next draw, which is like anti-card draw. That seems horrible. Raise Dead in this on curve is probably pretty nutty, but like we have Kirin Tor Mage at home. Like we've already gotten rid of a lot of our 3-mana 4/3s in aggro for a good reason. They're just too slow. They're not good enough stats for the cost. They're not aggressive enough. This on an Acupuncture or like Shadow Bomber on 4. Is that good enough? Maybe. I don't know. This might see some play, but I don't think it sees play in Aggro Priest. That's for sure. Spirit Peddler. Spirit Peddler's interesting in the sense that it reduces the cost of a random minion in your hand by 6. That's a massive discount. That's good big Demon Hunter support, but honestly, my head first went when I saw this was like, somehow you isolate this and do it from Mecha'thun. It's kind of cool that if it dies, if there's another Spirit Peddler in your hand, you immediately play the next Spirit Peddler, which also has Rush and Death Rattle for the next thing. So, like, you could have a swing turn on 6 where you're doing, like, trade into something that will kill it, trade into something that will kill it, play another gigantic thing behind it. Probably unequivocally a busted arena card. Not very good and constructed. I don't foresee Mecha'thun DH being a real deck. But if it is, this might be an enabler of it. Demonic Deal, I thought was amazing. I thought it was fantastic until I read that it puts a random demon that costs 5 or more on the top of your deck and not one from your deck. Ooh. I think that's a deal killer in 2 formats, definitely in Wild. Our pool is too large for that to be okay. Infernal Stapler, stop hitting yourself, stop hitting yourself, stop hitting yourself. This seems terrible. I guess you want to pair it up with a Rana Thrill Seeker. Can you see her? I think you want to pair it up with a Rana Thrill Seeker so that some of this 3 damage actually hits the opposing hero, but like, that's not a Wild deck. Okay, Hunter. This is very funny to me. Monkey Business, I've seen a lot of people talk about like some sort of Radiant Elemental Priest, making many bananas, making a very large Radiant Elemental, maybe a Nazmani Priest, something like that. I could see that. I could see that. I still don't know if you run the Tourist just to do that. It's so funny. A combo Priest... The draws in the mulligan are so specific and disciplined. You're basically looking for Protocol and Radiant Elemental. And if you don't have those 2 things in your starting hand, you're really taking a risk of your deck not working. So in order to run this card, you need to run the Tourist in that deck. Even Sylvanas, or what I call Sister Priest, right? It's running Sylvana, but it's only running 1 Maiden to try and like offset that fact that, okay, I need exactly basically 6 minions in my Protocol deck to ensure that 3 unique minions to make sure I get my Radiant Elemental so that my deck has text. Yeah, this might be a bridge too far. Workhorse, I think, is a busted arena card. Imagine drafting 3 of these fuckers, and you're just dropping them time after time after time after time. If it was me, I'd consider uninstalling on the spot. Some Chinese person's going to do this to me in arena. They're going to have drafted 4 of them, and they're just going to drop it. Like every turn, I'm going to hate my life. Cash Cow, I have seen so many people get so angry about Cash Cow. I think Cash Cow is better than what people are giving it credit for, but that doesn't necessarily make it good. Dreadshot1 in my Discord was just like, wait, I've cracked it, chat. And he showed Cash Cow and Sanctuary and Penflinger. And we're like, okay, what are you going to do with them coins next? And Dreadshot's like, so like, it tells you all you need to know. Like, nobody knows what to do with the coins you get from Cash Cow, but by golly, you can get coins. Realistically, the way I see the game loop kind of playing out, any kind of aggro is going to have to trade at least into this at least twice, possibly 3 times, getting you 2 to 3 coins for your Cash Cow. You can tutor it out with various cards. We have like Pet Collector and stuff like that, so you can tutor it from the deck. We have Animal Companion, or what was it? Something Companion, the one that they nerfed a million years ago. This would have been nuts in that. Yeah, I think it's probably better than it looks, but still not good. Some silly bastard's going to come up with something to do with this. Probably Dane, knowing Dane. Okay. I have some scalding remarks about some of these cards, man. I think Sharp Shipment, unironically, is in the conversation for worst Hearthstone card ever printed. Hear me out on this. You're like, Schmoopy, isn't that an overreaction? It's giving your weapon +2/+2. Yeah, but it's paying 4 mana for that. I would not pay 4 mana for that. We used to have Tink Oil. Like, this looks like dog shit. I would never put this in my deck on purpose. I wouldn't draft it in Arena. Under what scenario is this playable? And I understand why it costs 4 mana. It probably costs 4 mana so that it doesn't cost 1 mana when you prep it. Because if it costs 1 mana when you prep it, now you have a free version that's giving your weapon +2/+2 attack. And maybe that's busted with Sonya. I don't know. This looks uniquely bad. But Schmoopy, we've got like Duskfallen Aviana and like the 4 mana 5/6 with stealth that transforms into whatever minion that your opponent plays. I know, but some of those have like niche like uses. Like there's an actual combo that facilitates Duskfall and Aviana. This just feels like pure pack filler. And it's really rare these days that I feel like they manufacture pure pack filler. I feel like they're doing a lot better job designing cards these days that are either fun or they are flashy or they are useful or they're interesting or they're flexible. And this is none of those things. It's just crap. And I'm a little mad they spent time making this because this is Garbo. Agency Espionage, some crazy bastard will play this in Wild. I'm not going to entertain it any further than that. Robocaller, I think, is more interesting in Hostage Mage than any rogue deck, and I'll get to that. Okay, well, that didn't take long. Portalmancer Skyla, for my money, she's the most busted card in this set. She's also cursed to look at, and I fear for my life every time I see her, because I feel like the glowing eyes are somehow taking a part of my soul every time I make eye contact. Mage is not built around having access to rogue shit. Now, what rogue shit does Mage have access to? We've got O Manager, deal 2 damage, combo, get a card. Traditionally, in a class that cheats mana and makes their spells cost nothing, we can print mana from nothing. It's like we've got Mana Biscuit at home. Knick-Knack Shack. Can you imagine if they didn't nerf Girl and we could play spells for free and you could just keep drawing spells 4 times and just keep churning through? That'd be the nuts. I think Seashill and Calm-Man make a big case to find play in Hostage Mage. Hostage Mage is playing weird stuff like we're sniffing stuff like the Hero Power package, which I think is bait. Sleepy Resident, which is like the Skellyman location from Castle Anathria. What if Conniving Con Man is just more alibis, more novas? But Schmoopy, it's also more ice blocks. Listen, the odds that you've had your ice block just popped and it's also the last card you just played and now you're playing your Con Man to replay your block. I'm not saying that it's not going to happen. And what's kind of cute is Conniving Con Man will not repeat Potion of Illusion. That's both a positive and a negative because Potion of Illusion is also a rogue card. But Seashill making your like stall effects cheaper to kind of enable turns later in the game, I think is good. Con Man repeating Novas and Alibis, which I think are the safest things to repeat. Robo-Caller possibly drawing pieces that you want. If it's one thing that Hostage Mage kind of struggles with, and it's a deck I know very well, what it struggles with is like one of the best cards you can keep in the mulligan is Volume Up, because it gets your spells in your hand immediately, and then you can start making decisions about hand space management and what you're going to repeat and how you're going to take damage and how you're going to stall and what kind of a timer you're on, and filtering the spells out of your deck so that if you have to repeat a Volume Up, it's not a big deal and you're not drawing more spells and you're not burning cards. Robo-Caller is like, if you're drawing 3 for a 3-mana 3/2, that's kind of awesome because 3 is a turn you can usually take off in order to do some sort of draw. It has the opportunity, again, because the numbers are random, of getting some really good pieces. You could tutor your Romath and your Varden right off the bat. You could tutor your Ice Blocks right off the bat, or your Ancient Mysteries, or your Greedy Partners. Like, this could be very good in Hostage Mage. I could also see it fizzling and not being great. I'd have to sit down and play with the card. I think there's room in the list for experimentation. I would try it. Burn Down, I think, is busted. I think Burn Down's also busted. The fact that in 3 turns that cards are destroyed is immaterial. Those cards are going to get played regardless. If they're not played, you shouldn't be running Burn Down in your deck. Burn Down will be run in a deck where it is going to be vomiting the spells quickly, or it cares about the spell school. That's that. Burn Down's busted. Huddle Up fucking sucks. Hydration Totem. Even Shaman runs this. Is Even Shaman good right now? I don't know. I see somebody who plays a lot of Even Shaman. I think it beats Charge Druid, but I think people are starting to slow down on Charge Druid. Thank God. Because it's such an obnoxious deck, but it does lose so hard to aggro, and not even like good aggro. I'm pretty sure any aggro beats Charge Druid. If you really don't like Charge Druid, you could play like Treant Druid, whatever the fuck you want. You could probably beat Charge Druid. Hydration Totem is like Strength Totem never left. But it's better. This goes into the list. I don't know what you cut for it. Probably Crackle or Jam Session or something, but this goes into the list. Ice Crown Brochure is a weird card. I think it's good in Arena for a long time. I think it's fine in Standard as an enabler for Razzle Dazzler. One side is this. The other side is Grievous Bite. I don't think it's all that special outside of that. When this rotates to Wild, I don't think anybody pays attention to it unless they're somehow attaching it to Razzle Dazzler. Turbulus. Hunter Taurus. Let's look at the Hunter cards and see if we give a shit. People are telling me they want to run Bird Watching and Reno Shaman. They want to run Parrot Sanctuary and Reno Shaman. They want to run Chatty Macaw. I need a clarification on Chatty Macaw. I need a clarification as to whether or not you can play Lightning Storm and then play Chatty Macaw and then it plays Lightning Storm again, or if I need to specifically target a spell at an enemy and then Chatty Macaw will repeat that spell. Some people say Sasquatch too, but I don't think they understand that Sasquatch will not repeat Battle Cries, and it's a dumb fucking thing to put in Reno Shaman. Are these 3 cards good enough for Reno Shaman? Maybe. Yeah, all right, maybe. Like, I could possibly see that. I don't know if I'm necessarily making those cuts, but it could be. I think one thing I am underselling is the buff to board, hand, deck, battlefield. Like, I think I'm underselling that in my mind. I think once I play this card, maybe this card feels like it's nuts. Right now, I think it's trash, but I'm okay with being proven wrong since most of the cards you're playing in Reno Shaman are battle cries anyway. Crap, not wasting your time. Punch card. Punch card is interesting. If punch card costs 2, I think I would cut it from my current Odin list. My current Odin list currently runs 2 minefields as like ways to break up an early pirate board effectively. So like the way I kind of look at it is if they get the nuts on 1 and they go first, I have the coin. I can afford to take a turn off. Turn 2, I play minefield. Or if I'm really threatened, I just coin minefield and I blow up all their shit. Usually breaking that first wave of pirates extends the game long enough that Odin Warrior stabilizes. It's not a big deal. Paying 3 mana for this, if I was paying 2 mana for this, I could literally like my opponent void touches and then coins Treasure Distributor. I'm going to pay 2 mana the very next turn, and I'm going to break all that shit, and I'm going to blow it up. If it existed at 2 mana, it probably stifles aggro too much in Standard, so that's just never going to happen. As far as the rest of the Warrior cards go, I do want to address a line of thinking that somebody had in one of the servers that I talk about, where they're just like, man, Warrior keeps getting shitty cards, man. Like, what was the last good set that they had? I mean, we had Alterac, and like, what was the last good set? And we had Alterac, and we've had Titans. What was the last good set after that? And I'm like, my brother in Christ, you got Ham the Hungry. You got the option to not play Warrior cards. Like, I understand that, like, these are all not the greatest cards in the world. Some of these are very good in Arena, but they're not the greatest cards in the world. Not looking at you all you can eat. You're wonderful. You're wonderful. Everything else is kind of garbo. But let's look at, like, that's only half the set for Warrior this set. You also got to play Sleep Under the Stars, New Heights, Hydration Station. These cards have already made an impact in Warrior. I would sniff Ungoro Brochure in Odin Warrior. I'd consider it. Here are the 2 upsides. Upside number 1. I'm already playing Light of the Phoenix, and now Light of the Phoenix is attractive to me because Light of the Phoenix I can make cost 0 with a skipper combo, and I can draw 2 cards. But what if I tutor 2 minions instead? What if I maybe I cut? What if I cut like the armorers, my 2 mana 2/2s? When I gain armor, I can draw 2 cards. What if I ran this instead? It's roughly the same mana as armorer, as like hero power armorer, or like do a little skipper combo, throw in the armor at the end of it. Buff up some skipper cards, or happen to draw my Odin or my Geppetto or my Fizzle or my Bear Off. Like, that could be beneficial. The flip side, of course, is drawing 2 spells, but like I'm drawing clears. Maybe I get a discounted New Heights. Maybe I get a discounted Sleep Under the Stars. Maybe I get a discounted From the Depths. I would sniff this in Odin Warrior. I would try it. The same way I would try it in Reno Druid. I think it has the possibility of being a decent card, though 4 mana might be too slow. At the same time, I'm gaining a shitload of armor, especially if I'm not being too stingy with my skipper combos, because I run Geppetto and Odin Warrior now. I have like crazy refill. I'm just going to get the combos back later, especially if I fizzle the Geppetto, and now I have extra super secret double redundancy in the amount of combo pieces I have. Warrior has time and space to play this. Druid has time and space to play this because it gets so much mana early. I would sniff this. Warrior got a good set this expansion. If for no other reason than it got to play Druid cards and not Warrior cards, which is kind of funny and kind of sad all in the same. So all in all, what are my main thoughts about the mini set? I think there's going to be some good cards that crack the meta open. Looking at you, Portermancer Skyla. Looking at you, Where are you? Dungar, Zephyrus. Like, I think we're going to see a lot of play from this mini set. I think it's absolutely going to be worth getting for gold. I know some people that prospect getting the gold version of the set in assuming that things are going to get nerfed and then following up on that. I think this mini set is also going to bring its own round of nerfs. Don't get me wrong. I don't think it's a dud. A lot of people have been calling this expansion Rastakon's Rumble 2.0. I think those people are idiots. It's absolutely made an impact on every format. I think it will continue to make impacts on formats, and I think this mini set is going to also make an impact on this format, even if it's not necessarily in the class or in the ways that you want it to. So, if you enjoyed this content, please consider liking, subscribing, and commenting on the YouTube video. I appreciate your feedback, and I hope you appreciated the wild perspective